And when you were little, you had all these ideas drilled into you, okay? All these rules, values, beliefs, and you were told certain things that you need to do. And so all your habits were formed through repetition. These ideas got drilled into your subconscious mind. I'm going to give you some simple instructions. And if you went and told your friends or your coworkers what you were going to do to form habits for performance, habits that would stick permanently, most people would think you're out to lunch. They think you're crazy. Okay? Now, the way I'm going to explain it is it's not that crazy. It's dead simple. It's the same way that you were programmed in the beginning to have the habits you have, but there's a few subtle things you got to do differently. And we'll get to the do's and don'ts. Make sure, and I'm going to get you to pick some habits. Make sure that the habits that you are picking or wanting to work on are ones that are in alignment with your goals, in alignment with what you want, in alignment with the vision that you want to see in your life. Welcome to this class. Every month or so, I run these live free classes because I want to help you do better in life. And so today we're going to talk about how to form the habit of performance. Listen, the problem is you're trying to make changes in your life, or you're trying to make improvements, and nothing actually seems to change. It leaves you feeling frustrated. You end up doubting yourself, and I just think it's plain wrong that you weren't taught actually how your mind works or how to think for yourself. And then you keep hoping things are going to get better, but they don't. And so I work with a lot of people, and I talk to hundreds of people a week. I've worked with thousands of people. And obviously, this is a very popular topic right now, is this idea of habit. Of course, we're coming into a seasonal habit, which of course is coming up in a couple of weeks or so. And that is New Year's Eve and New Year's resolutions. And of course, online on social, everybody's talking about, goals in 2023 and 10x your income and all these promises that are being made that 2023 is going to be your year. But there's a great quote that I really want you to understand. I put it in my email when I invited you, if that's how you got here. And it's a quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson. And he said, "Of what use to make a heroic vows of amendment if the same old lawbreaker is going to keep them?" In other words, what he meant is, what's the point of you making these heroic promises? He called them vows of amendment. What's the point of you making these promises that you're going to change or you're going to do something differently if the same old lawbreaker, being you, the same old person, is making those promises? In other words, there's no point in making promises that you're going to keep next year or attempt to keep unless you change. And so today I want to talk to you about really understanding habit. And so most people actually don't know what it takes to form habits for better performance. It doesn't mean that you can't. It simply means that you don't know how. And I've not met a lot of people that are really good at forming habits that stick. And so today what I want to do is I want to explain this idea of how habit actually works. As I said, we weren't taught about it in school. We weren't taught to think or how to use our minds properly. And the way we were programmed when we were little around habit has caused us some real challenges to form better habits to improve our life. So what if forming habits and making them stick was actually simple? What if it wasn't actually that hard, although it's been really difficult for you to get them to stick? What if it actually wasn't that hard? It was actually quite simple. I guess the next question I have is, are you prepared to open your mind and listen to me for the next 30 minutes or so? Because if you're not prepared to open up your mind, then you're probably not going to change your mind. I'm in the business of changing people's minds. If you want your life to change, I got to get you to change your mind, or change the way you think, or change what you believe, or change what you think you know to be the truth or the answer for you to get ahead. So do me a favor, if you're going to stick around here for the next 30 minutes or so, don't neglect what I say. Don't just accept it, and don't just reject it. but absolutely for sure don't neglect it. Okay, so I just recommend you get a pen and a sheet of paper out, jot down some notes. I'm gonna fly through some things here with you, and we'll explain this whole issue of habit. Okay, so let me just turn off my slides here so I can see what's going on. We've got some of our my clients here in the Zoom room with me, and they're listening as well. And folks, for those of you who are here, we'll have a little Q&A after this lesson is done. So, all right. So let me give you an example of some of the problems that you face. You know you should be doing things, or there's things you shouldn't be doing, but you're ended up doing them anyway. And so let's take a look at kind of three main areas of our life. Most of our challenges, most of our problems, most of our wants kind of fall into these three buckets: money or finance, health, and relationships. So here's an example. When it comes to money, you know that you could be earning more than what you're making, and what you do is you end up making these promises that you don't end up keeping. So you've got different ways and ideas of how you could be earning more, and you make promises. You go like, this is going to be it. I got a new plan. I got a new goal. This is a new year. And you make these promises. You're going to prospect more. If you're in sales, you're going to do more follow-up. If you're marketing online, I'm going to get online and I'm going to do that live video, or I'm going to do that Facebook live or whatever. And so we make these promises of what we're going to do, and we don't do them, or we maybe start doing them, but then we stop doing them. When it comes to health, you say, I'm going to start something, or I'm going to stop something. I'm going to start going to the gym. I'm going to the gym every day. Every week I'm going to go to the gym every single day, or I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week. I'm going to stop drinking, or I'm going to stop smoking, or I'm going to start eating better, or I'm going to stop eating out. And so we make these promises around our health. And then in relationships, the same thing. I'm going to stop yelling at my kids. I'm just going to stop. I'm going to stop raising my voice. I'm going to stop arguing with my spouse. I'm going to stand up for myself. Darn it. I'm going to be honest with those people. It's time I really, speak up and be really honest with what's on my mind. And so we make these promises, again, back to Emerson's quote: what's the point of making these heroic vows of amendment, or these promises, if the same old lawbreaker is going to keep them? So what we got to do is we've actually got to change the way you're approaching this if you want these habits to change. Okay. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. Now, listen, if you're willing to admit that your way isn't working, then your mind will be open to a new way. All right. So this is a lot of you watching here. Maybe you're live right now. Maybe you're watching the replay. You've got to be willing to admit that your way isn't working. Otherwise, your mind will remain closed to any suggestions or new ideas. There's a great book that I've read a lot and studied a lot. It's called Think and Grow Rich. I was reading the last part of the book, and it's called How to Outwit the 6 Ghosts of Fear. But he also talks about the Devil's Workshop, and he gets you to ask some self-inventory questions. He said, read these questions out loud, and and really answer them honestly. And if you can't be honest, then get somebody who knows you to ask you those questions, where they can kind of hold you to account for you to be truthful. And so, the truth shall set you free. And so what you've got to do is you've got to be willing to admit that your way isn't working, and then your mind will open up to a new way. Now, listen, if you listen to what I tell you and you apply it with persistence, you can change your habits permanently. You can take control of your story and your life, and you can actually make any habit you want stick. And once you know how to do it, you're going to be a lot more confident in your life and what it is you're trying to do. Now, if you don't take the advice I give you, and listen, I'm not coming on here saying I've got all the answers, but I do know certain things from my own experience. And if you don't take the advice that I give you here, likely nothing much is going to change next year. And if it does change at all, the changes are going to be slow or they're going to be temporary. And just look at those three areas of your life. Just look at your financial situation, look at your health, look at your relationships. And again, if you're honest, you'll know what I'm talking about. Things don't generally change much from year to year. And generally, when I meet with people and I work with people, those are I kind of ask three questions in those three areas. It doesn't really matter what the answers are. And it's not to be judgmental. It's just to get an assessment of how long you've been kind of stuck in that same spot. Now, listen, there's a slow way to do this, and there's a fast way. And so what I'd suggest you do is stop conforming to mass motivation. Okay. Take the road less traveled. I'm going to suggest you take the road less traveled and stop following the masses. Right. Following the masses is, getting on your phone, scrolling through social media, downloading books, buying books, doing all these different things. And there's great books out, there's great content, but that's not going to change anything. Okay. That's back to that same old lawbreaker trying to make these promises. So I wouldn't follow what the masses are doing, because the masses all have the same problem. And frankly, it's more confusing out there than ever, online, in books, trying to figure out how to make these changes that I'm going to share with you today in the next little while. Listen, I know how hard it is and how frustrating it feels. I gave myself a hard time for a long time, and I was always thinking that there was something wrong with me. I thought I've been in business for 30 years. I failed miserably when I started, but then I figured it out fairly soon. And I've always been fairly successful in my business career and definitely financially. But then I struggled in a lot of other areas of my life, and I couldn't figure out why. And I thought, I'm a pretty intelligent guy, but I was doing some things that weren't very intelligent. And I thought, there's got to be a better way. So finally, I did what I suggest you do, and that is be willing to admit that my way wasn't working. And when I did that, then, I really figured it out. And leading up to that point, though, I kept giving myself a hard time, thinking there was something wrong with me. And all that did was really delay my progress. It delayed my belief in me. It postponed a lot of things in my life. It caused me to procrastinate a lot, because I was locked in the idea that there was something wrong with me. I never ever considered maybe I just didn't know what to do. I could do it, but I didn't know what to do. And when I realized I was just simply ignorant, meaning I didn't understand. That's what ignorance means: lack of understanding, of awareness. And I probably actually was ignorant in the context of somebody suggested to me that I could make these changes. I probably was closed-minded. But when I realized I was simply ignorant and I admitted it, my eyes were open and my mind open to a much simpler and better way. And I've worked with thousands of people to show them that it's much simpler to get ahead in life if you just make some simple changes. So I want to talk to you today about how you can form the habit of performance, actually quite simply. So I want to talk to you about three things today. One, first off, we have to understand how habits are formed and why they're actually hard to break. Okay, most people are approaching habit the wrong way. They don't really understand how they were formed. Now, let's generally, I don't want to insult your intelligence. Generally, how habits are formed, but there's a deeper part of this where very few people understand how their mind works as it relates to habits, and how their thinking works as it relates to directing their brain and their nervous system and their body when they're trying to form new habits or break habits that don't serve them. Second thing is I want to talk to you about a simple way to set habits for performance that actually stick. And then I want to give you some do's and don'ts in order to ensure that you succeed. So there's certain things you should be doing, and there's certain things you shouldn't be doing if you really want to make these habits stick. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about how habits are formed. So habits, they get drilled into you. When you're young, and it's usually with negative commands. And so your parents, when they were telling you to do things like go brush your teeth, or, finish your dinner, or don't do this or do this, very rarely for most of us, it wasn't really done with a kind voice or a kind hand. What happens to most young people is they have these rules and all these things that they're supposed to be doing and what they're not supposed to be doing. It gets drilled into you through repetition. And simultaneously, what's happening for a lot of people, and it still happens today, and it's a habit that hasn't been broken by a lot of parents, is they drill in these things of what you're supposed to do, and they drill it in negatively with negative commands, with criticism and with judgment, and kids grow up with an inferiority complex. They just don't feel good enough, and then that starts to present all kinds of problems in their young life and in their teen life, and ultimately in their adult life. So that's one of the first problems, is we've had all these habits drilled into us negatively, and so we have a real negative association at a deep subconscious level, whether you're aware of it or not, to forming new habits. So it's no wonder we have a hard time trying to form habits that stick when we have this negative association to the actual habit of habit forming. Now, if you didn't stick with the habits, if you didn't follow through, oftentimes you were punished, you got in trouble. And so to avoid getting in trouble, or because you were seeking, love and validation and approval, you tried really hard to earn parents or teachers' praise and acceptance. And so another problem in forming habits is that we give ourselves a hard time, because we were given a hard time. And the habit forming process when we were little create this inferiority complex, but also create this fear of criticism. Most people are struggling with worrying about what people are thinking. And so that plays into all kinds of areas of our life. And you know what I'm talking about. You know what it feels like. And it definitely impacts our ability to form habits to perform better in our life. And so through this repetition, it got deeply ingrained and hardwired in you. Okay. You have habits and you have beliefs, and you have things that are just buried deep in your subconscious. You're not even aware of what happened and what's causing you to do that. And it's very, very frustrating, because, as an adult, you're going like, this shouldn't be this hard. I should be able to figure this out. If you were like me thinking, I feel like I'm a pretty intelligent guy, I should be able to sort this out. And so they are hard to break, because most people don't know how their mind works and how it directs your brain and your nervous system. And the biggest problem that you have today, and it's getting worse, the biggest problem is the narrative and the social culture that we are now living in. Okay. And so our social culture is centered around these things. We're on these phones all the time, almost literally 24/7. If you wake up in the middle of the night, you can't sleep, a lot of people grab their phone, and we're being fed all kinds of information to try to fix our life or improve our life. And there's millions of people out there online that have all these opinions and ideas, some good, some not so good, but it's very noisy, it's very confusing, it's very difficult to filter things out. And it becomes very difficult to go, who do I believe? Who do I trust? And so the narrative that we're in, there's a big narrative around mental well-being and mental health, especially these past couple of years. And that's getting more and more confusing. The bottom line is that you're not forming the habits you want to form. You're not doing what you want to be doing, or you're doing things you don't want to be doing, and you just can't seem to break it. You think there's something wrong with it. You're giving yourself a hard time. You're frustrated. You're anxious. You're worried about your future. And that's just plain wrong. That's not the way it should be. And so life seems way more complicated than it ever has been. And it's a hell of a lot more confusing than ever. And so what I want to try to do is just kind of simplify this for you and show you what you can do. And so let's talk about a simple and effective way where you can set habits for performance. And so the first thing that we need to do is you need to relax. Okay. You got to relax and you got to let this work rather than becoming too anxious or too worried, if it will. So I think that you are trying way too hard. I think you're trying to force it. I think you're not seeing results, so you give yourself a hard time. And so the first thing you got to do is, and you got to accept this, okay? So you know what? If what Doug says on this call for the rest of this call makes sense to me, and if it makes sense to you, then it must be true. If it resonates with you, then I must be telling you the truth. That's why it resonates. And so if it makes sense to you, can you accept these ideas and then just accept it and go, you know what? I'm just going to accept these ideas and I'm going to relax and I'm going to let this work rather than trying to force it to work by becoming too anxious and too worried, if it will. Okay. And so again, you're going to have to accept the ideas I'm going to share. And you will see how simple it is, but you got to remember, okay, your conditioning, your programming, your beliefs, and actually anyone around you that doesn't know this is going to try to convince you otherwise. So if I tell you what to do today, and I'm going to, excuse me, I'm going to give you some simple instructions. And if you went and told your friends or your coworkers what you were going to do to form habits for performance, habits that would stick permanently, most people would think you're out to lunch. They think you're crazy. Okay? Now, the way I'm going to explain it is it's not that crazy. It's dead simple. It's the same way that you were programmed in the beginning to have the habits you have, but there's a few subtle things you got to do differently. And we'll get to the do's and don'ts. What you got to do and what you got to make sure you don't do to make sure that this simple formula actually works. Okay. Now, listen, there's a slow way and there's a fast way. All of you, most of you are taking the slow way. Right? There's a fast way to do this. It can happen really, really quick. But the reality is the way that you're doing it is a slow way. And what I mean by that is the approach that you need to take to do this, you're doing it anyway. You might not be aware you're doing it, but you are doing it anyway, because you are actually giving yourself commands. You are telling yourself things, in your mind, in your subconscious. Sometimes you're saying it out loud. You are saying things verbally or in your thoughts. And what it's doing is it's leading you to either stick with habits you have, or you're attempting to form habits that you want to make. But there's a much faster way to do that. The other thing we want to do is we want to make sure that the first few habits that you form are actually aligned with your goals or a crystal clear vision that you want for your life, right? So a lot of people miss this. So let me just talk on this point around goals and vision. You may or may not know this, but your mind is a goal-seeking machine, right? You've got a built-in mental GPS, or it's like a torpedo or a missile, a guidance system. It is seeking a target. Okay, it's constantly scanning your environment as to where it's supposed to go today. You're the operator of that machine, and your job is to tell it where you want it to go, and you direct it with your thinking. And so we've got to make sure that we have a crystal clear destination of where we're heading in our life today, tomorrow, this week, this month, and next year. So we have to have crystal clear targets and a picture in our mind of what we really want. So if you think of those three areas of your life, right? Health, finances, and relationships, we want to have a clear picture of what it is we really want in those areas. Okay. And then what we got to do is we work on habits that help us get to what we want. Right? We don't work on habits and eliminate habits to avoid what we don't want. Don't worry about all that. That will turn the corner automatically. What you got to do is you got to start picking and forming habits that are going to help lead you to what it is you want in your life, not to get away from what you don't want, to lead you towards what you do want. So just to reiterate, make sure, and I'm going to get you to pick some habits, make sure that the habits that you are picking or wanting to work on are ones that are in alignment with your goals, in alignment with what you want, in alignment with the vision that you want to see in your life. All right. So what I want to do is I want to just explain this in a bit more detail visually. So just give me a second. I'm going to fire up my Remarkable here, and I'll bring it on screen and try to explain this to you in a visual format. So let me see if I can get this going here. All right. So let me explain to you how these habits got formed, and also what's going on for you. Now, anybody that has worked with me or followed me, or anybody that's followed my mentor, Bob Proctor, this diagram, this picture I'm going to draw to explain all this is not going to be any surprise to you. But even if it isn't, you can't see or have this explained enough, because we really got to get this burned into our mind, so we really understand how our mind works and how it controls our brain and our nervous system. Okay. If you haven't seen this before, it's a very simple diagram. So let me just draw a little picture here of you. All right. That is you. Okay. This is your mind, and this is your body. Okay. Now, I'm not going to get too much in the history of this picture, but this was a simple model that was created by a chiropractor, a holistic healer back in the early 30s, that really understood mind and thinking and how it impacted what the physical body did, how it felt, and the health of the body. And this diagram is what Bob stumbled upon in the early 1970s. And ever since he was taught this, he was teaching it for his entire career. And it's just such a simple model to explain what is going on for you. So let me just start a little bit. Let me just clear this up here. So when you were little, this is what was going on. So this bottom part of your mind is what's called the subconscious mind, right? And when you were little, you had all these ideas drilled into you, okay? All these rules, values, beliefs, and you were told certain things that you need to do. And so all your habits were formed through repetition. These ideas got drilled into your subconscious mind through repetition. Go brush your teeth. Go brush your teeth. Did you brush your teeth, Doug? No, go brush your teeth. Over and over and over. All these commands over and over. And what happened is, through the repetition, these ideas, these were just ideas, okay? Through repetition, they go into your subconscious mind, and they get drilled in and create a mental program, okay, or a operating system, if you want to use kind of a technology term, what Bob Proctor called a paradigm. But all these habits got drilled into us at a very young age. Okay. Now, what happened is, let me just clear this up. We'll start again. What happened was, this all got drilled into. Okay, we got this program. And then as you got a little older, your other part of your mind started to develop, and it's called your subconscious mind. Okay. And you have the ability to think. And so as you got older, again, more information was coming at you through your five senses. Your parents were telling you things, teachers were telling you things, drilling all this information into you. And those ideas, again, went right into your subconscious mind. Okay. And so this program controls this thing. All right. And so your body, it does certain things. It takes actions based on the program, the subconscious mind, right? So this part of your mind, okay, this is what is actually controlling your actions. And this is what's actually getting the results that you're getting in your life. Okay. So here's what happens. Here's the problem. Let's clear this again. So here we are today, and we have this mental program that is running our actions or our habits. Okay, everything we do is habitual. Everything. What you think is habitual, what you believe is habitual, your morning routine is habitual. And if you try to disrupt your morning routine, your sequence, it really causes you to feel uncomfortable. If anybody else tries to disrupt your morning sequence or your evening sequence, you have lots of resistance towards it. Okay. And so we are just habitually operating, and those habitual actions produce the results. Right now, you say, you know what? You start thinking, you go, it's 2023 coming up. And you know what? I don't like the results I'm getting. I'm not earning what I want to earn. I'm not as healthy as I'd like to be. You know, I'm struggling in some of my relationships with my friends, my family, my coworkers, whatever. And you go, you know what? Next year, this is going to be the year. This is going to be the year I'm going to do it. Okay. Now, through these five senses, what you're doing, you know, let's call this hearing and seeing, those two senses, so we can hear and see, right? Those senses are paying attention to what's going on online and all this information about how 2023 is going to be the best year ever. This is it, baby. If you do this, man, oh man, life's going to get better. If you do that, you're going to 10x your income. If you do this, you'll meet the love of your life. If you do that, you'll build an online business and make 100,000 a month. All these promises, you know, back to Emerson's quote of what used to make heroic vows of amendment if the same old lawbreaker is to keep them, of what used to buy into heroic vows of promises that your life is going to change if you don't change, right? And so you get these ideas and you start thinking about them, okay? And you go, you know what? I need to form. So we have the ability to think, and you start going, so this is New Year's Day now, and you start making resolutions. And you might end up with 8 of them, 8 resolutions, and you go, this is it, baby. I'm doing it. And then what you try to do is you start to try to change through your thinking and your willpower, and you try to get your body to take different action, positive action, to get better results or positive results. Now, the problem is this program right here. Okay. There's a number of things that are going on. So number one is if you're trying to form a habit that's contradictory to one of your habits in your paradigm, in your mental program, you're going to face resistance. If when you were a little and you were criticized and punished and given a hard time for trying to form habits, that's going to get in the way. If your results have caused you to look at yourself, your self-image, and you see yourself as a failure, or you see yourself as, you know, not very confident, right? Then that's going to get in the way, right? So really the biggest problem we have is right here in this mental program. And so when Emerson said, again, of what used to make these promises, if it's the same old lawbreaker is to keep them, what we've got to do is we've got to change what's going on here. Okay? That's what we got to change. And if you don't change this, okay, nothing on the outside is going to change. That is a reality. Now, the cool thing is, this is actually very simple to change, right? And so what we've got to do is we got to do the exact same thing our parents and the teachers did to us, okay? What we've got to do is we have to form habits let's say 6 of them. We have to form positive habits that are in line with the goal or what we want our life to look like. I'm very bad at drawing stars here, but that's what we want, okay? We don't want our current results, okay? They're negative. We're not getting the results. We want positive results, and this is what we want in 2023, okay? So I'm going to tell you the slow way and the fast way to do this. It's pretty much the same process. Obviously, the faster way gets you quicker results, but either way, you're doing it anyway. Okay. What we've got to do is we have to use our conscious mind, and we have to think up what's called a command or an affirmation, some people call it. Right? We have to think up a command or an affirmation, and I'll help you with this. Right? Come up with a command or affirmation, and what we've got to do is we have to start repeatedly giving our subconscious a command over and over, over and over, repetition, 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 repetition. It's the exact same way that you were programmed. And you're not generally doing that. You might do it a little bit, but probably what you're doing is you're telling, okay, get out of bed early, Doug. Go to the gym. You got to do this. You got to do this. And you do it for a little bit. And then what happens is this program, so you're going, go to the gym, right? And the program goes, stay in bed. You can go tomorrow, right? And so what we got to do is, rather than trying to fight the existing reality, right? Rather than trying to, overcome this powerful program, we don't fight it. We just build a new one that's stronger, okay? A new program that is stronger than the existing program. And the only way to do it, is through repetition of affirmations or commands to your subconscious mind. Okay. Now you're doing this anyway, right? You are saying things to yourself repetitiously, sometimes out loud, sometimes quietly to yourself. Sometimes you're saying things to yourself, you're not even aware you're saying it, but you are, through repetition, you keep telling yourself certain things, and not much is going to change. And so that's the slow way. So you can keep telling yourself what you need to do. You can start giving yourself, these commands bit by bit, and slowly, things will start to change over time. But the fast way is to do the exact same thing your parents and your teachers did to you. And it's through the power of self-suggestion, repetition, that becomes what we call auto-suggestion. And through repetition of suggestions, it just becomes automatic. So most of you, if you're an adult, most of you don't need to be told to brush your teeth, right? You just go brush your teeth. You might miss it. Maybe one night you're tired, you don't want to do it before bed, but generally nobody has to tell you to go brush your teeth. It's auto-suggestion. You just automatically suggest to yourself that you can go brush your teeth, and you go brush your teeth, and hopefully your teeth are pretty healthy. And so what we got to do, we got to give ourselves these commands over and over and over. And I want to explain to you how you're going to do that. Now, if you don't do it, not much is going to change. So let me give you some do's and don'ts here before we wrap this up. Number one, and maybe jot this down. Don't try to break old habits. Okay, they're negative. It's no fun trying to break old habits, right? If you focus on positive habits and it's leading you in a positive direction, meaning towards what you want, your goals, what you want your life to look like, we want to focus on positive things. Don't worry, the negative ones will just die off. Okay, they will just fall away. They'll just disappear. So do not try to break old habits. It's very, very difficult to break old habits. What you do is you create new habits. That's the ticket. Focus on new, focus on good, focus on positive. Now, if you only try to stop a bad habit, a new one is going to come up. Okay, it's the law of vacuum. So if I go, you know what, damn it, I am going to stop drinking Coca-Cola. It's just not good for me. It doesn't make me feel very good. It's full of sugar. That's it. Starting tomorrow. Well, maybe starting Saturday. Now, maybe I'll start Monday because I don't want to miss the week. You make up these excuses. I'm going to stop drinking Coke. And so you stop drinking Coke. And maybe you throw all the cans out or donate them or whatever, you give them away. That's it. I'm done drinking Coke. Well, if you don't replace it with a positive habit, you're going to probably turn to Sprite or Gatorade or something. There's going to be something that's going to replace the negative habit, right? And so if you just try to stop a bad habit, whatever it is, a new bad habit is going to take its place. This is really important. Next, don't give yourself a hard time when you start out. Right? That's your biggest problem. Right? You would be way more effective at forming habits that stick if you stop giving yourself a hard time. And that's a habit in itself. Okay. Another bad habit you have as it relates to mind and how your mind directs your thinking and your brain and nervous system is you don't use your mind properly. You spend way too much time talking about the past and thinking about the past. Okay. You spend way too much time worrying about the future. Your mind doesn't operate that way. And so you're in the habit of not thinking properly, and you're in the habit of giving yourself a hard time when you're not able to succeed at the very thing that you're trying to do. And then you write yourself off as a failure. Okay. You're not a failure, but temporarily you are going to fail at forming the habit. Right? Don't let anybody tell you any different. Right? You are going to fail over and over and over again as you form these new habits. That's the only way your mind learns, is through failure. Okay, so we got to get that straight. And so I tell people, when they want to form a habit, I remember talking to a guy, he said he was drinking too much, and he kept giving himself a hard time. He was trying to force himself to not drink so much at night and on the weekends. And I said, I got a suggestion for you. Why don't you just keep on drinking? He goes, what? I said, yeah, keep on drinking. Don't worry about stopping drinking. Just keep drinking. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it. All I want you to do is start giving yourself a command with a positive habit that you actually eat and drink healthy. Just a positive affirmation. I live in a healthy body. I'm at my perfect weight, and I only eat clean and healthy food. Something like that. And it only took him a couple of weeks, and he stopped drinking. I said, just keep drinking. So he kept drinking. But then one day he woke up and he didn't want to drink. And the next day he woke up and he didn't want to drink. In other words, what you got to do is, rather than the same old lawbreaker, you making these promises you're going to stop drinking, what you got to do is you got to change your mind. And so all you do is, through repetition of these commands and affirmations, you just keep telling your subconscious what it is you want it to do, because it controls your body. Make no mistake. Right? You don't control your body. Your subconscious mind controls your body and what it is that you do. And so what we got to do is we just got to change our mind, change our subconscious for it to believe something different. And one day you're going to wake up and your behavior is going to change. That's the way that it works. Okay. So don't give yourself a hard time when you start out. Remember, willpower does not last. Okay. Willpower does not last, but persistence does. Right? You keep persisting, you keep attempting to form the habit. Don't give yourself a hard time. Recognize you're going to fail. Right? It's going to take a bit for you to overwrite the subconscious and rewire your brain. Not very long. There's a fast way and a slow way. Okay. And rather than forcing this, just let your subconscious mind direct your brain and nervous system, and your actions will start to change. If you want to change your behavior, you don't do it through willpower. You do it by changing what's going on at the subconscious mind. Okay. And all you got to do is just give your subconscious mind a command and then expect that it will follow it. Now, that might be hard for you to swallow. You're saying, Doug, if I just give myself these commands over and over, that all of a sudden my behavior is going to change? You might think that's ridiculous. Well, you're probably like me then. You're just ignorant. I mean, you just don't understand this yet enough where you believe it or you buy into it that it could actually be this simple. And that was a turning point for me. When I started to accept how simple these things are, then my mind was open to accepting the ideas and believing it, where things then started to change. Here's a don't tell people what you're doing. Okay. Don't tell people the habits you're trying to form. Right. Do not announce it to anybody. All right. Because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And they're going to think you're out to lunch or something. Right. Don't tell people what you're doing, because what you're doing is you're actually setting yourself up to fail, because people, they don't understand this. They don't agree with it. And whenever you say you're going to do something, it could be a habit, it could be a goal, because we have this fear of criticism and fear of what people think. When we announce to the world what we're going to do, we're actually setting ourselves up to fail. Okay. I think it's a good idea to keep your mouth shut. I love what Napoleon Hill said. He said, tell the world what you're going to do, but show them first. And so I wouldn't tell people what you're doing, because you're going to have people working against you, whether they don't mean to, but in their subconscious mind, in their brain, they got a bunch of things that they believe. And if you tell them what you're doing, even if they say they support you, their paradigm, their mental program's going, man, oh man, that Doug guy is out to lunch. Okay. And so I wouldn't tell people what you're doing, except if you can have an accountability partner with somebody that you know and that you trust, and absolutely and unequivocally 100% that they have your back, they want to see you win, and they believe in you. Now, there's a lot of power and accountability, but you got to make sure that you have the right accountability partner. You need to have the right person. Only work on 1 or 2 habits at a time. Okay. You're not allowed, if you're working with me, you're not allowed to work on more than 1 or 2 at a time. Clients go, can I add another one? I go, no. How about I add this one? I go, no. You can't add another one on until you get the first one going. Okay. It's kind of like getting plate spinning. You got to get one plate spinning and keep it spinning. And then you can put another plate on top of that pole and get that one spinning. But you've got to get one plate spinning first. So 1 or 2 habits maximum at a time. And so once you get one going, it's just a habit is just something, it's automatic. You have to think about it. So when it becomes just automatic to you, most of the time, like brushing your teeth, well, then you can add another one in. And then when that one becomes automatic, and so if you have these, 6 or 8 or 10 resolutions that you want to make for 2023, you're only allowed to pick 1 or 2 off that list. And again, those 1 or 2 must be in line with what you want, or what your goals are, or your vision. Okay. And one of them has to be simple. You're going to do 2. One of them has to be really, really simple. So a very simple one, health-wise, you go, you know what? I am going to form the habit of drinking at least 8 glasses of water every day. Or I'm going to form the habit of drinking a bottle, this big bottle of water. People carry these big bottles of water around. Whatever it is, some very simple habit, you can win. Okay. Because the spin-off in your mind by winning is really, really powerful. All right. And so when you start to win, right, you get an endorphin boost, you get a kick, and it just builds up your confidence, it builds up your strength, it builds up your mindset. And so then when you take on a more difficult one, you're already getting some wins. All right. And so the last thing is gamify this, right? You gamify this and you get these endorphin hits from your own success. And so what I have people do is I give you an accountability scorecard, and we make it a game, right? This is going to be fun, right? I mean, forming habits shouldn't be difficult. Forming habits shouldn't be painful. Forming habits shouldn't be where you're punishing yourself. You want to make it fun. And so you gamify it, you give yourself a bit of a scorecard, and you start giving yourself points as you start to form these habits. And if you're working with an accountability partner, or you're working with me, then it becomes a hell of a lot more enjoyable. So here's what I want you to do. Number one is, and this is just kind of a simple little instruction for you to implement what we're talking about here. Number one, write out a brief description of your current situation. So whatever's going on in any area of your life, it could be your how you're earning money, it could be your career, it could be the job you're in, it could be the current state of your health, it could be your relationships, any area of your life that you want to change. Okay, now remember, we want to be focusing on an area of our life we want to change to get what we want. This always has to be centered around our wants, right? Not what we don't want, around what we do want. And so get your pen out and just describe the situation. I know that I got to get to the gym. I know I got to start eating better. And, this is what I'm currently doing. So you describe the current situation. I probably eat out too much, and, I'm going to bed too late. And, if I have, alcohol or whatever, I wake up tired in the morning, so I'm not motivated to go to the gym, whatever. You you just take an honest inventory of the situation, basically what's going on for you, right? The way it is. Then you take that and then you rewrite it the way you want it to be. I eat clean and healthy. I get loads of sleep. I wake up positive and energetic. First thing in the morning, I head to the gym because it makes me feel good, keeps me in a great vibration. I'm more effective at work. I'm in a better mood when I'm at home. And you list all the positive. You basically, here's the current scenario that you don't like. What you do is you write out the way you want it to be. So that's step one. Step two is then make a list of your negative habits that aren't serving you. Just get a pen out, take an honest inventory, and write down all the negative habits that you have that don't serve you. And then look at that and then make up a list of positive habits that will, right? We're only taking inventory of the negative. We're not going to work on the negative habits. We're just going to basically ignore them. But you do want to at least bring them to the surface so you have an eye on what's really going on for yourself. And you look at that list and you think about what you want and you make a list of positive habits. So I'm going to drink 8 glasses of water every day. I'm going to go to bed no later than 10 o'clock at night. I'm going to turn all the screens off by 9 o'clock, an hour before bed. And you make a list of these positive habits that you are going to begin to incorporate that's going to help you get to the goal. All right. So list of negative habits, take inventory, write a list of positive habits, get rid of the negative, throw it in the garbage, burn it, shred it, get rid of it. Just focus on these resolutions, these heroic vows of amendment that you're now going to keep, okay? Because you're going to be a different person. You're not going to be the same old lawbreaker. And what you're going to do, you're going to do the exact same thing the adults did to you. And now listen, you're an adult, right? Some of you, like me, I was a kid walking around an adult body for most of my life. All right. We're adults now. We can take control over our story. We can take agency over our life. And you're going to make up a command. You're going to tell yourself what to do. Right? Doug, you are going to go to bed every night at 10 o'clock, no matter what. And I just keep telling myself that. Go brush your teeth. Go brush your teeth. Doug, you're going to go to bed at 10 o'clock every night, no matter what. Right? And so you make up a simple command or a simple affirmation. Right? Now, what we got to do is we got to repeat it. It's kind of like when you were a kid, if you got punished at school, you had to do lines on a chalkboard. And so here is my auto suggestion book, and you'll see lines and lines and lines of affirmations. Right? And this is the fast way. Right? The slow way is, reminding yourself once in a while when you remember. Now, Doug, don't forget, go to bed at 10 o'clock tonight. It's kind of a weak command. It's not very stern. It's not very demanding. Just, try to go to bed tonight at 10 o'clock. Don't forget, maybe set an alarm on your phone. Maybe that'll help you. No, Doug, no matter what, you're going to bed at 10 o'clock tonight because it's good for you. And you write that out over and over and over and over and over and over. It's called self-suggestion, repetition. Read it, write it, say it, record it, listen to it. Listen, I lost 20 pounds purely on an affirmation. I was affirming in writing and verbally and auditorily listening to it. I live in a healthy body. I'm at my perfect weight. I live in a healthy body. I'm at my perfect weight. I just kept affirming because I wanted to go to the gym because I knew for the age I was, I had to start getting healthier if I wanted this body to last long enough to do the work I want to do. So I just kept affirming over and over and over and over again. I live in a healthy body and I'm at my perfect weight. And then people started saying, did you lose weight? I go, no. And I kept hearing this, did you lose weight? I go, no. Did you lose weight? No. And I didn't have a scale at home, so I didn't think I was losing weight. Anyway, I happened to be at somebody's house one night at a party and I heard it again. And I happened to be in the bathroom and there was a scale on the floor. And I stepped on the scale and I had lost 20 pounds purely through an affirmation. Now, it wasn't long after that, about a week or so after that, I was out for dinner in my favorite restaurant where I'd always order steak free and a glass of wine. And Abe, the server there, the manager goes, Doug, do you want the usual? I go, nah, you know what? I think I'll have the quinoa salad and a Perrier. And he just looked at me like, who the hell is at my bar? And I didn't consciously choose to change my diet. I just started doing something differently and things just started to happen. And if you don't believe me, I would read this book here called Think and Grow Rich The third principle in the book is called autosuggestion. He said it's the keystone to the arch of the entire philosophy, autosuggestion. And throughout the book, he repeats it over and over. He gives you repetition. He keeps self-suggesting that self-suggestion or autosuggestion is the key to drill these ideas into your subconscious mind, demanding and expecting that things are going to change. So listen, now I've got some of my members here on this call in this room in Zoom. You can't see them, but they're here. And every week I do live calls like this to my members, just trying to help them. I wanted to create an environment where anybody could get some access to what I've learned and what's working for me, whether it's in the form of advice or coaching or mentoring. So if you want help with this, you can join my membership, and I'll take you through this step by step. So for our members, we're going to be going through this in a bit more in depth over the coming weeks to set you up for habits for performance in 2023. So listen, when you learn to form habits that stick, right, you feel a lot more confident, and you can develop a knowing that you take control over your life, right? You should have agency or control over your life and your story. And so when you learn to form habits and you can get them to stick, you become a lot more confident. So most people don't know what it takes to form habits. And it doesn't mean that you can't. It just simply means you won't because you don't know how. I've told you how. Now you know how to do it. But your conditioning, your programming, your habits are really, really strong. And so your habits are going to want to keep you stuck. So if you want me to help you, I'd love to help you. You can join my membership. You can come on and get on some live calls with me. You'll get an email with a link to do that. I think we're doing 50% off. It's only $1 a day, basically. It's $37 a month to become part of this community and get on live calls with me. And I just want to coach you and mentor you and help you and keep you in the right direction, pass along to you what I've learned. And so you can join that for 50% off and get in here, and we'll see you inside my membership. And I'd love to help you. I hope this has helped. I would kind of go back over this a few times. And if you do come on in, I'm going to give you an exercise to do. I'm going to give you that accountability scorecard, and I'm going to really help you form these habits that stick, because the old paradigm that we're used to kicks in a couple of weeks. The entire world's going to be talking about it, online, all over the place. You're going to have all this stuff about, 2023 is going to be your year. But if you, the same old lawbreaker, makes these promises, you're not going to keep. You're going to find yourself back in the same boat at the end of 2023. So I hope I can help you. I hope this has helped you. Thanks for listening in. If you're watching the replay, thanks for checking it out. And I hope you have great holidays and great time with your family. And I just want to wish you well. I think it's plain wrong that people are struggling in their life when it's a lot simpler than it really is, or what they really know. And I want to try to make it simple for you. So thanks for coming on, and we will see you all soon. Take care.